Today I would like to talk about something you'll most likely see every day, every week, or every month. I'm going to go more into depth on this and cover maybe some things that you may believe to be false or you have been told otherwise. Milk. You probably have drank cow's milk sometime in the last week, and whether you realize it or not, there's an extreme amount of cruelty in that milk. Now, you might believe that your milk comes from some sort of happy farm, or maybe a grazing pasture, or an oasis, or like something from a fairy tale, where they get treated extremely well and humanely and have really high welfare standards. And for that, it's okay to take their milk and rape them repeatedly. But if you think about that in your head, if you are treated well, which most of you probably are, taking that you have access to the internet, would you still feel that that would be okay for you to be assaulted like that, physically and sexually? Now, to another point. If you were to walk by a dairy farm, you will not find an oasis, or pastures, or prairies. You'll find a big shed in which you hear cows screaming out, and inside there's tons upon tons of dairy cows locked down with not an inch of wiggle room. Their heads are locked down, having machines suck milk from their udder to fuel you, the consumer. The amount of abuse and suffering that you cause when you buy a gallon of milk is extreme. What you just paid for when you bought that gallon of milk is forcing someone by supply and demand to impregnate a cow by putting in semen straight into their system and forcing them to have a child. If this happened to a human, this would be called rape, murder, and they would get tons of years in prison for that. But because it happens to an animal that we don't see, people think that that's okay. After that, the process goes as follows. Once the child has been born and brought into life, they are stolen from their mothers on their first day of life, where the parent cow pines out for days, naturally being a social creature. Imagine if you had a sibling that was just born, then they'd be stolen away, and you couldn't do anything. You'd be locked down and helpless. Imagine if your child, son or daughter, were to be taken away from you just after being born, having possible relationships just taken away in that same moment. After that, they will then be raped by machines to have their milk that was meant for the young, and then it'll be taken out of them, squeezing their udder, causing their udder to burn because of how long and how furious this process is. They will then bleed, and the damages to their udder will be extremely severe. After that, the machine will then extract all milk and cells such as white blood cells and other things from their blood which was contaminated the milk. In the US, the average amount of cow cells that is in the milk is 1,120,000, which correlates to 1,120,000 cells from the cow that has been put into their milk. Once more, do you find it abusive or extremely evil to continuously rape a cow for a child which will then be fattened up and killed and then hung up, watching all their other species who they could have been friends with get slaughtered at an early age of about 2 years old? A normal cow could live to 20 or 18 years. But in this industry, it is only profitable to mass breed them to then mass kill them at the age of 2. because after that, they will stop, they won't get any fatter, and it won't be profitable. Now, you might think or say that they are just animals, and they don't deserve the word victim, or that they can't actually think. But when you think about it, if we were to replace those cows with dogs or cats, that would be considered animal abuse. You would get possibly thrown in jail or have a high sentence because of that. But when it's a cow, it is looked over by the government and by everyone else. Imagine if your favorite animal, companion, pet was in that situation and forced to die. How would you feel about it then? Imagine if you, or a family member, a relative, or any other human were to be in that situation. I bet you wouldn't wish that on your worst enemy. If you could think of the worst person in this world, would you want that to happen to them? You might think it's going to be hard to go vegan or cut milk out of your diet, but when you have, but I will show that there's many other alternatives which don't have cruelty. There are many types of vegan milk, such as the following: rice, almond, soy, coconut, macadamia, flax, peanut, oat, and hazelnut are several types of vegan milks. When you have these many other types of milk that you don't encourage rape and slaughter of innocent beings, how can you say that it is okay to make these animals suffer for their whole life so that you can have some unhealthy plate that tastes will only last for 10 minutes? Do you truly believe that 10 minutes of taste is worth tons and upon tons of animals' exploitation, slaughter, kidnap, and rape and abuse? If that was happening to the human population, would you still turn a blind eye? Then, one last question. If you were the one in the cage, locked down, strapped down, forcibly impregnated, kidnapped your whole life, and then at 2 years old, they're infants at this point, they're killed, to then be sold to the masses, their body and flesh viewed as a product, enslaved, how would you want other people to treat you? Would you like them to continue to support this abusive and cruel industry, or do you wish them to buy a vegan product in which no one had to be harmed and no animal had to suffer their whole life for? Which one would you prefer if you were the victim? Thank you for listening.